So we're here in downtown Bay City and we got a new concept for today's video. I'm gonna set a 30-minute timer on my phone and we're gonna see how many useful plants we can find in an urban setting, whether that be medicinal or whether that be edible or just useful in any regard. Now, one thing I want to stress is that some of these places might not be suitable for eating or any consumption. So please do your best to just take this as a tutorial, education only. You don't need to go out and eat things out of urban settings, and always get permission before you do, if you do to choose to do that. Okay, let's start this timer and let's get out of here. Okay, already a bunch of honey locust trees. They have edible pods, little stuff on the inside. It's one. This is called Canyza canadensis, or horseweed. It's got edible spicy leaves. Common mallow greens. They're not that great, but they're okay. Here's dandelion. Here's crabapple tree. A little bit tart. Red pine. We can get pine pollen from these. Plantain growing out of the crack in the ground. That can be used for bug bites. Look at that. This is purslane, Portulaca oleracea. This is an incredible wild edible, usually a weed in people's gardens. It's got a very succulent tasting leaf. Probably a spot that I wouldn't want to eat normally because it's a post and therefore like it brings the attention to dogs to pee here, but still edible nonetheless. Maple trees right over there. They can be tapped for maple. Russian sage. Smells excellent. You can make little sage bundles with this. There's a cedar. This is an ornamental version, but the regular versions of cedar we can use for tea, for colds and flus. In moderation, of course. This is a Siberian elm. Siberian elm, often in the springtime, has things called little samaras that can be edible. They're really delicious when you find them. Very early spring though. Right now it's not a good time. Here we have a bur oak tree. It's got nice acorns on it. It's a member of the white oak family. Big acorns, taste really good. They gotta be leached though, obviously. We have a edible dogwood species here. Look, there's one that's starting to turn red there. These are ornamental pears, but honestly, here's a little trick. You could graft on another pear variety onto these in urban environments, and they would still produce good edible fruit if you did that in the early spring. Ooh, here we got a couple right next to each other. Here's common milkweed, Asclepias syriaca, and then we have right next to it the Canada thistle, or Cirsium canadensis, or canadensis. And both of them are edible. They both require a little bit of preparation. And then right here we have juniper. And these berries, or cones rather, these should be eaten in moderation in the fall time, but they're a great seasoning for meats. Also, they make gin out of this stuff. Ooh, and right here we have oxeye daisy. Only 10 minutes in, we've already found a bunch of species. Let's see what else we could find. So this right here on the top of the steps is curly dock. This can be used as a green in the early springtime, but then also people have been known to use the seeds and make like a dock flower. I have yet to ever try it, but I've been told that that's what people do with it. So that other plantain that we saw earlier, that was a common plantain. This is a narrow leaf plantain. It's got much skinnier leaves. This can also be used for bug bites. Some people eat it. I find it to be a little gross. This one is absolutely worth mentioning. This is all over city centers, all over the place. And it has edible tubers. and most people eat them in their houses. It's called sweet potato. And people plant this sweet potato vine in their planters all over cities across much of North America. And in the fall, you can actually come around to these places and dig out the edible tubers and get nice tasting meals. So these are what those pods look like, by the way. The honey locust pods. In the past, people used to harvest them and take the inner juicy stuff, the paste, and it was kind of like carob pod stuff inside. It's like a really nice tasting, carob-esque flavored thing. And there's a whole row of them here. Another maple tree that can be tapped. This one's a little too skinny to tap, but still, it's an edible species. We have wild grapes here. Wild grapes this time of year. Amazing tendrils. Tastes very lemony. Other side of the fence here, we have a bunch of hostas, not normally thought of as an edible species, but in the springtime in Japan, this is actually highly harvested edible species, hostas. Who would have thought? More purslane. Voila, echinacea, extraordinarily medicinal plant. If you chew the roots, they give you a nice zing, but also really good for colds and flus. Basically boosting the immune system and making you feel better. Right in the landscape right here. It says to keep off the grass, but there we have a couple cherry trees. I don't know if they're just flowering cherries or if they're actually fruiting cherries, but they are cherry trees. And then right above us here, we have what's called a linden tree. So this is a European basswood. Tilia, I can't remember the last name of the scientific, but it's a Tilia species, and these are useful little flower buds right there. Tilia cordata, that's what it is. What do we got over here? White sweet clover, there's some common dock. It looks like there's a little bit of a wild radish. Yeah, there's a ton of little stuff here on the cracks I would never eat from this place, but 8 minutes left. Check that out. That's a little, what do we call this again? This is, I can't think of the name right now. It's completely escaping me, but it is an edible species in the Asteraceae. Total weed, very bitter. It's leaking this little sap right here that's inside all the lettuces. So this is definitely related to the lettuces. It has this white sap that leaks from it. If I could think of the name, if it'll ever come to me, I will, say it again. Roses, these are edible, the petals. They're yummy. I'm not sure on whether or not they've been sprayed with poisons or anything like that, so be careful about that kind of thing. Black-eyed Susans right there, they're a medicinal plant. Spruces, in the earlier spring, these new growth right here would have been a lot more tender, and people have made all kinds of things with spruce tips throughout history. That's another edible one. And often, actually, if it rains a lot, under spruce trees, you can find boletes. Evening primrose. Evening primrose is an edible species. It has a fly crawling on my face. Evening primrose has edible taproots that are a little spicy, although it is said that for men, they can lower testosterone, so I try not to engage with this plant. Ooh, right there we have a bull thistle. There's more evening primrose. Bull thistle's got absolutely wonderful springtime shoots once they're peeled. As far as I know, it doesn't have that many uses, but it's a cool plant because it's called 4 o'clock. Its flowers open up at 4 o'clock every day. Or thereabouts. Probably not exactly 4 o'clock. Ooh, look at that. There's a wild mustard, or they're called, God, I'm like losing my train of thought here today. This is a wintercress, a wild wintercress. It's got extremely bitter greens, but once you get used to bitter, they're not that bad. This is called black nightshade, and contrary to popular opinion, black nightshade is not poisonous. In fact, the ripe berries are delicious. They have a very tomato-like flavor, and this is widespread across the entire planet. The greens can be cooked and eaten, and then, like I said, the ripe berries. So we never want to eat green berries from this plant, but only ripe black ones. And there is one look-alike, and that's called belladonna. Belladonna is toxic, so I would suggest that you go home and just take a look at what the differences are between these plants before consuming these berries. But highly recommended. Black nightshade, Solanum nigrum or Solanum nigrum, absolutely amazing. Oh, and then right here, right next to it, we got wild catnip. And wild catnip, it's the exact same thing, Nepeta cataria. This will make your cats go crazy. Let's take this for the person behind the camera's cat. Oh, this is a wild amaranth. Oh, right at the buzzer, we just found these cool plants right here. We got wild amaranth and lamb's quarters growing right in proximity of one another. These are amazing edible greens. So today, Bay City, we didn't find as many as I had thought. I kind of wandered a little bit, but still, we found an amazing array of wild edibles in a short period of time in a city environment, and not necessarily like a place that I would recommend people eating, but in the case of the apocalypse, you know, there's a lot of edible stuff around here. I hope you get out and you enjoy it. Thank you guys for watching. Oh, I didn't see you there. I was just having a little joke with the blue spruce behind me. Never mind how weird that is. If you liked today's video, please do us a favor and like and subscribe and hit that notification bell on the bottom. And if you're really feeling like helping us out, please send this content to a friend. Thank you so much for watching. You have a great day and keep foraging. Yeah!